Hey guys, it's Cassie. I know that picking a pump to use can be really confusing, and especially if you've heard that these two pumps are pretty similar. They really are. You're not alone in being confused about which pump to pick. So in today's video, I'm just going to break down the differences between these two pumps and help you figure out if one is a better option for you than the other. So I've been a fan of the Spectra for a long time just because I think that the suck pattern and the customizability of the suction and the suck pattern are great on this pump. I think the milk output of this pump is also really great. So I have been recommending this pump for some time just because I think that people get really good results with it. But I've also heard that this pump is comparable to the Spectra, the Luna Motif. So in today's video, we're just going to break down the minor differences between the two. But if you watched my video on the Motif, you already have seen that I was really impressed with it. When I used the two pumps, I do get about the same milk output. The suction strength is very similar, and I think they're both great pumps. You can see the size difference is, not that different. This one is a little bit more slim just because they didn't include the handle up like this, like the Spectra did. Other than that, the size of the two pumps is about the same. Both of these pumps do need to be plugged in. This is the Spectra 2. The Spectra 1, as you've probably seen in my other video comparing the Spectra pumps, the Spectra 1 does have a battery, but the Spectra 2 and the Luna Motif do need to be plugged into wall power in order to work. Both are about exactly the same weight. They both weigh about 2 pounds. And this one is just a little bit slimmer because of the shape of the handle. And the Spectra does have the bottle holder in the back, although that's helpful if you're pumping one side, but sometimes you're pumping two sides. To be honest, this bottle holder on the back isn't a make or break thing for me. I don't use it that often. So you can see here is the backflow protector set up with the flange and the bottle and the duckbill for the Luna Motif. And here beside it is the one for the Spectra. So they are just so similar. The Spectra bottles hold 5 up to 6 ounces. And same with the Motif bottles. They just have a little bit different design, but the parts are all completely interchangeable. The duckbills, which cause the suction on both pumps, are interchangeable between both pumps. And when I was pumping with the Motif, I actually used my Spectra parts to try out the Motif, so they are completely interchangeable. Now I'm going to just play around with the settings on the pump so you can see the difference. This is really a nitty-gritty detail that might be too much information, but it can be helpful as well. So I'm going to go ahead and turn on each pump. I'm going to set them on the lowest setting, and just so you can compare how they sound. I do think the Motif is a little bit louder than the Spectra, but it's not that noticeable. All right, so here's the Motif. And this is the Spectra. And that's both pumps on the stimulation mode at its highest setting, so the quickest suck that it can do. Like I said, Motif slightly louder, but not that noticeable. With both pumps, you have the mode button, or the bacon button, as some people call it, that you change from here. So that's how you switch between the letdown phase and the expression phase. Both have memory of your settings, so when you turn on the pump, it's going to return to the last setting you had it on. That's important to remember because often you'll end pumping on a higher suction than you want to start on, so make sure you turn that suction level down before you initiate pumping the next time. Oh, and this is interesting to note too. The Motif starts out in the massage phase. As I've mentioned on my Spectra video, to start the massage or the letdown phase on the Spectra, you actually physically have to hit that button first. So if you are a Spectra user, make sure you hit that wave button as soon as you initiate pumping to do that letdown cycle. The Motif only lets you do the cycles in 60 and level 60, whereas the Spectra is a little bit faster. You can see it is set at level 70, and we cannot change this for either of the letdown phases on either pump. The vacuum levels on both pumps can be changed in the letdown cycle. On the Motif, we can only go up to level 3 in the letdown cycle, and in the Spectra, we can go up to level 5 for the vacuum. So these are the max settings for the letdown phase for both pumps. The Motif, we have 60 cycles, level 3, and for the Spectra, we have 70 cycles, level 5. We're gonna switch both over to the expression phases. So I have both pumps set up now on the expression phase at the lowest settings. So on the Motif, you can actually go all the way down to cycle 30, which is a slower suction pattern. And on the Spectra, the lowest cycle is 38. So we have them both set in vacuum level 1. This one will go all the way up to vacuum level 12. The Spectra will go all the way up to 12 as well. Interesting to note that the Motif is slightly stronger in the suction level 12 than the Spectra is. But most people aren't going to be pumping in level 12, so is a negligible difference between the two pumps. The cycles on the Spectra in the expression phase can go all the way up to 54, whereas on the Motif, we go all the way up to level 46. So the range is a little bit different on the cycles on the two pumps as well. Honestly, this probably isn't going to make that big of a difference for you either. The main thing between the cycles that I notice is when I have a slower cycle, it pulls a little slower, a little longer, and I find that it pulls out more milk. But some people find that the faster cycle stimulates more milk for them. So it's just a matter of customizability and playing around with what works for you. All right, so that's all in the way of the difference in the settings. I hope that didn't confuse you. I'm going to jump back on and just kind of recap the differences in the pump and help you in figuring out which pump is best for you. Of interest, both of these pumps usually tend to be covered by insurance companies here in the US, and both pumps have similar price points. I'm going to include links down below for where to find the pumps if you're not getting them through insurance. And again, the pump parts are totally interchangeable, so if you're having a hard time finding pump parts for one, you can always use the pump parts for the other. The Spectra 1 does have a battery, which is at a little bit higher price point, but if you're leaning towards the Spectra and the battery option is important to you, then you could always go with the Spectra 1. So I know that was a lot of information. They're both so similar. If you're really torn between which pump to pick, don't think too hard about it. They're both really similar. So if your insurance covers one pump over the other, go with the one that your insurance covers. If you find a better deal on one pump versus the other, they're both so similar that I wouldn't really be able to recommend one versus the other. This one is like a little bit sleeker, like I mentioned. It has a tiny bit stronger suction at the highest setting than this one, but most people don't pump at the highest setting, so that isn't going to be a deal breaker for most people. And yeah, I don't think you can go wrong with either one of these pumps. So anyway, I hope that helps you. I hope that gives you more information and helps you make your decision on which pump to pick. I do offer virtual visits, so if you're still having a hard time deciding which pump is best for you, or if you just need help with your flange fitting, problem solving your pump, or figuring out a pumping schedule, then I'll leave the link for that down below. Thank you for being here. I hope the video was helpful to you. I'd love it if you would join the community, subscribe to the channel down below. If you hit the bell, you're not going to miss any videos that I post. I do have some more pump videos coming out, so if there are other pumps that you're interested in, stay tuned to the channel. And as always, try not to quit on your worst day. It does get better. And I will see you guys all soon. Bye.